Hi, this is Jill Riley with the Pacific Northwest Conference, and we are looking forward to Women's Retreat coming up in September. And as a part of that, we wanted to highlight Safe Sanctuaries, which is going to be holding a training right before Women's Retreat starts. I'm going to ask Debbie, who is a pastor and a therapist, if she would give us just a little brief synopsis of what Safe Sanctuaries is about.
Safe Sanctuaries is designed to equip churches, pastors, and leaders to help people that are involved in situations of domestic violence primarily.
As the church, what is our call to be involved in these situations?
It's a calling to help those who are weak and pain on the margins, struggling. I mean, that's, I think, the thrust of the gospel. So
Right.
it's a kind of a critical training for pastors and leaders in churches, or, well, anyone.
Well, let me introduce Heather McDaniel, who is the associate pastor at Bremerton UMC, and Nick Pringle, who is the pastor of Cedarcreek Covenant. So, thank you all for being here. I know that we have highlighted a training that you were going to do. Heather, tell me a little bit about how that training went.
Yes, so we did that training at Monroe Covenant Church on May 31st. And prior to the training, Debbie and I spent a lot of time praying that the Holy Spirit would show up and be there and bring those who were supposed to be there into the space. And the Holy Spirit came through. I felt that the exact right people were there, that everybody brought a perspective that we all learned from. I've been able to hear how what we shared and what we talked about bore fruit in the different people who were there, and for me as well. So it was really amazing that it was more than the sum of its parts.
Well, before we got on the call, you gals shared with me that there were two men in the room, one being Debbie's husband and the other being Nick Pringle.
Mm.
Nick, what called you to or compelled you to be a part of that training event?
My church chair, actually, she came to me and said that she was taking the training and wanted to learn about it. And so I dug in a little deeper and I said, man, I'd love to join you in this and learn more myself. And so walking in the room, I was excited for what God was going to do that day. And then I was a little surprised. Like, yeah, being one of the only fellas. And then also I was the only pastor in the room, which
Hmm.
was also a little surprising to say, oh, there's room to grow here. There's
Yeah.
opportunities here.
Expound on that a little bit. What did the Holy Spirit speak to you during those moments as you're listening to stories and processing the training?
It was lots and lots of heavy information and heavy truths that many people in our community are facing on a daily basis, and many people within our congregations that they're facing. And then a sense of, Lord, how do I care for those in my midst who are experiencing this in my church?
Mhm.
And, constantly on my brain was, how do I care for my church family when I head home after this training?
Debbie, maybe you can answer this. Statistically, intimate partner violence in our communities, how prevalent is this?
Well, they say 25% of women will encounter interpartner violence and about 10% of men. So, that's 35 people out of 100.
Yeah.
So, Nick, talk to me. This invitation for this retreat, this pre-retreat training event, is for pastors, and that includes men and women. And so, talk to me about the importance of our ministers receiving this kind of information.
The importance is that we are called to lead, and we're called to lead and love our flock. And so we as the leaders, if we have these tools in our toolbox to love and care for our church better, then we can help equip our people to do the same, and we can lead our church in that direction. I was surprised at how God quickly used these tools in my toolbox. I took the training on a Saturday, and then that following Wednesday, just a few days later, I had a man ask me for breakfast to just spend some time together and share life. And as we began to share, he began to pour his life out to me and just share some of the hurt he's experiencing from his intimate partner, from his wife. And as he began to share, the training and the pieces came up for me in my mind. And I just said, it is no coincidence that him and I were meeting that day.
Absolutely.
And this man is a pastor and is experiencing violence in his life, so much so that he spent many nights in his truck out in the front yard and had to rent a hotel room a couple of nights just for his own safety. And I would have never known. And I believe God was working on him long before this and working on me and using this training to lead me to care for this man.
Yeah. And it is a total misconception that intimate partner violence is only a male and female event. So let's get to the nuts and bolts of this a little bit. The day of the training is
September 19th.
September 19th. And there is a pre-training, Heather, that needs to happen before people come to this training. How do we access that?
That's correct. When you register for the training, you will receive a link to this pre-training. It's an online training. There's some reading you do. There's some quiz questions you answer after each reading. And then you get a certificate at the end. Yeah.
Okay, and so once that training is done, then you can participate in the training. How long will that be?
It's a 7-hour day. So
Okay.
the morning that the women's retreat begins.
Okay. Meals provided,
Yes.
and the cost of that training is?
I believe it's $125.
I want to close our time with just this simple question. If you were going to invite somebody to this training, tell us what was one compelling thought or word that came to you during the last training that you just couldn't wait to process or share with somebody else. And I'll start with you, Debbie.
I think the way this training is collaborative and evolving, we've been able to add material, and after that, we have more ideas. And I think adding Nick will just continue this process. So I feel like it's a very dynamic material that can be adapted and used in many ways.
Yes, and I failed to say earlier, Nick is one of the co-presenters, co-facilitators at this event. So, Heather, how would you answer that question? What was your big takeaway from the last event that you did?
Empower, that this is a training that empowers us to notice and allows us to be part of the empowerment of those whose power has been taken away from them. And so I think empower us not just as individuals, but as leaders in our churches. We are not helpless, and we can let others know that they are also not helpless.
And Nick, I'll let you close us out on that thought. What was something you walked away from that was so deeply valuable to you?
For me, there's an exercise that we do in the training about how to define abuse. And it's a physical activity where you get up and move to different portions of the room to identify whether the story that was read is abusive, is somewhat abusive, or is not abusive. And then you would physically get up in the room and move to those signs to say what you believe about that scenario. And there were times in the day and during that, and all the women were on another side. And it showed me that we might view abuse differently and that we might hear scenarios differently. So it gave me like a pause button when I hear abuse to say, well, what is abuse defined for each person? And it gave me better listening ears. So
What a
this
powerful
is what,
visual perspective. Goodness.
yeah, and this is why I would love to have more men there so that we in the room can have a wider spread of to say, how do we all see this together and
Yes.
differently? And we can learn from one another. So it's so important for our fellas to be there.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for sharing passion for this and your care for the community. Any information you need will be on the website. It'll be linked to this article. And take some time to prayerfully consider what a simple day, one day out of your life could do and how it could impact others. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you all soon.